Oh, baby. What is this? A DFS cram and checks the calendar mid-April, Easter Sunday's Eve. I got Kyle Dvorak from NBC Sports Edge here to join me to break down this very, I don't know what the word is for this specific USFL Week 1 slate, but it is something. And we're going to talk through it all here today, get you guys situated with the best GPP plays, get your lineups in order here for the weekend. Let's do it.
I suffer from a debilitating condition known as atrophic chokitis.
Peter's one of the greatest depositors I've ever seen.
Trust the process. Let's go. Let's go.
I got auto match with Levitan. This is bullshit.
If I just go the other way in that 66, I win all the money. All the money.
If I had 150 lineups, I'd win too.
Process over results.
Make a bitch go crazy. I don't know which one of these my baby. Bust out AP, coach 5 bullets in your head like KD. Bust it, bitch go bust it. And I had 10 pints with me in Russia.
Hey everyone.
Kyle Dvorak, welcome to a stream I don't know if anyone was asking for, and yet here we are. We're going to do it no matter what.
I threw out to like one of our coordinators at NBC. I was like, do we want to like maybe do a show or even like a Twitter Spaces? They're like, it's Good Friday. No one's going to show up. Don't worry about it. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've been having a hard time, stepping outside of our Twitter bubble because if you just scrolled through our feeds, you would think that the entire world was frothing at the mouth for these contests. And then you're like, it might actually just be 16 of us who are all obsessed with this.
That's what I'm worried about. Is it like we'll flip the ownership? We won't really get ownership that means anything as we talk about the tonight's game, whatever. Shouldn't be that good of a game. So we'll flip ownership tomorrow, realistically, and like the plays will look about as expected, like per projection. It'll be like, oh, so it was just me, Pete, Cody, Justin, like Makajeski, all entering as much as we could, and they're subs of those sites. I'm like, oh, there was never an edge at all. I don't think that's the case. And if you got into the big 150, 100K to first, that is definitely not the case. But like at the 333 level, or even the 100, the 150, I look at the lobby, I'm like, I recognize a quarter of these names, and the other ones have ETR badges, they have Osmo badges, and I really feel like there's like a black cloud coming over the edge, but it doesn't mean I'm not like just this will be the most I've played in any contest and anything that I cared about since like I feel like even like the end of the NFL season. I'm like, all right, let's get this over with.
Yeah.
The interesting stuff is mostly over. It's like probably since like week 8 that I really like cared this much about DFS.
I'm very similar. I've, dabbled in some stuff, MMA, F1, all that jazz, but I felt so rusty getting back into the football streets for this, but in a very fun and exciting way. I do think we should touch on right at the top the kind of snafu that happened with the DraftKings big contest. Of course, once DraftKings on Tuesday announced that the big contest was going to have 100K up top, we were all thrilled. We thought if they would have done a 25K up top, we would have been like, well, yeah, that makes sense. We'll do it. So they do the 100K yesterday, in the morning, maybe early afternoon, there was about, I would say 4,000 entries. And all of a sudden, everyone started to say, I'm getting free tickets from DraftKings. Within the next hour or two, the entire contest filled. It had been removed from the lobby altogether to where the only way you were able to add lineups was if you had registered a single team or multiple teams. And I was able to manually add some, but this was such a clusterfuck. How did this go down for you? Did you get alerted to this? Did you have a chance to get some lineups in there?
No, I wasn't going to fill 150. I think my idea was I was going to probably throw 50 or 60, I think, in. And like I wasn't going to do it on a Friday before the game. I was like, this won't even fill. I was pretty sure it wouldn't fill. I didn't know if there'd be like overlay beyond the rake, but I was like, they're going to collect a pretty small amount of rake on this one. I have as much time as I want. And I was out doing like, normal people stuff. Yeah. So I could be up late at night for the 3 a.m. news updates they would send out later. So I'm out living my life in the middle of the day like a normal person. And late at night, I like 9, 10, it had been long since filled, I assume. Someone's like, man, really sucks that they sent out all those tickets. And I start like scrolling vigorously through my feed. I'm like, what do you mean they filled those tickets? What do you mean tickets? And from what I can surmise, talking to people, I text my DK rep and they said they'll ask and they never answered me. Someone had some poor intern just had to have clicked the wrong email list because they like you said, it was 3,000 or 4,000, let's say like up to the last second, maybe got to like 6,000 whatever. That's like still leaves what was like 20,000 entries. I don't know. I can't find, I can't look at the contest anymore, so I don't know. But it leaves 20,000 entries probably at $12 a pop that they sent out tickets for is 200 some odd thousand. They didn't mean to send $200,000 in excess of that in tickets out, I assume. Or if they did, I do have to file some sort of complaint. I think it was like an honest God mistake, which sucks for all the grinders. They opened a $20K to first $10 contest. They've still got a ton of other stuff, but like that was really frustrating. And no, I don't have a single bullet in it. I even have tickets to the contest that I earned throughout the week, like the golf showdown on Thursday and Friday. They were like, oh, we'll throw 5 or 10 ticket contests in the lobby. I was like, well, guess I'm playing golf showdown today. So I have a few tickets that I don't get to reserve even.
Yeah, so it's just an unfortunate situation the way this run out, because there's lots of people like you who are super excited to fire this week, kind of knowing that we might only get one shot at a 100K prize pool, and then for it to go down like this and to not let the people who are super excited have a fair chance to get in there kind of sucks. But we're gonna press onward. The chat seems shocked that you do normal people stuff, Kyle. They just picture you glued to your computer at all hours of the day.
I do like talk a lot about not going outside and being like a spreadsheet virgin online, but I actually do go out like a lot. Like I hate being like as logged on as I am. So when I'm not logged on, I really try and unlog off, like get out, hike, do like normal people stuff. But it definitely does not jive with like any amount of persona. But also like I don't want to like talk about myself at all online other than make fun of myself. That's where I feel comfortable. So I would never actually admit, outside of like a stream that I assume 8 people are watching because it's USFL. We just can't. I love your content, Pete, but this will be one of the lower rated ones. We have to assume.
Yeah,
I'm fine admitting here that I go outside, but like on the NBC channel, I'm not going to portray myself having much of a life.
We, according to my statistics, we have 42 people watching now, which I do agree feels like a great outcome, all things considered here.
That's 42 more entries than I have into the the big GPP.
My...
We even started off someone saying like, glad I got my ticket. Well, I'm really glad for you too, in fact. Yeah.
Well, what is I know you don't necessarily have skin in this specific game, but how do you think that's going to shake out? Because you're going to have the true diehards, right? That like 150 registered early in the week, and, our Justin Freemans from Run the Sibs, our Cody Mains, and then a ton of people with one ticket. Some people who are here watching the cram, like Brian, because he got the ticket. And then maybe some people who don't even care, not even going to bother, put in a dummy lineup, whatever. Like, we have to assume this contest is extremely EV, right?
Oh yeah, this might I play like almost all of the contests in the DraftKings lobby, like pretty much everything. Not like all the contests. I play something in most contests, like a League of Legends showdown or something. I've played it. This has to be, other than like insane overlay, like Aussie rules at 6 a.m. like last fall or something. Like for a contest that filled, this probably has to be like the largest EV you'll ever find, because I'm not even sure. So we know, like through a little bit of like backwards engineering, we know that for sure you had to redeem your ticket. So everyone in the contest knows they're in the contest. I don't know that everyone will even, I imagine a lot of people yesterday, oh, let me reserve this real quick, and they won't go back and set it.
Right.
And so many of that 20 some odd thousand are going to know nothing. I like Paxton Lynch's ownership in this contest is going to be so much higher than everywhere else. So yeah, for the people who got in 150, or even for your one bullet that cost $12, it's got to be worth like 16 or 18 probably.
Yeah. So it's going to be good. I was trying, from a macro take, and we'll start to dive in to some more specifics here, but the way I'm kind of approaching this and the way I built, I ended up getting 50 lineups into the big, and I was just leaning into overstacking, making sure I had 2, 3, even 4 guys from the same team, and just being like, the play is going to be so bad. A lot of these offenses are going to implode. Can I just nail the one team that actually has scores? I don't know what would be a nice outcome, 27 points. Like if I can hit that team and just place my bets there. Is there any other way you're thinking about approaching this other than from like a macro correlation standpoint?
Yeah, I think especially for like the large field contests, the thing with the XFL was it was really easy. And I think this will be kind of similar. It's really easy to see who the good teams were. Like June Jones coached team. June Jones was like the West Coast. I think it's run and shoot, but it's very similar to air raid with like different like reads for the receivers and stuff. Like run and shoot, Bob Stoops with like his Oklahoma offense. It was very easy to see essentially the 2 to 3 teams that were going to be super valuable to target. And like, I just jammed those teams, a ton of them, and did really well in the first week, but I didn't ship anything because I confidently thought I knew who the team's wide receiver 1, 2, 3, or generally that vibe were. And it was way worse than I thought in terms of the level of reporting. And the XFL actually had like not solid reporting, but better than what we have here. And I was still super incorrect on my assumptions on like depth charts and target shares and stuff. Offenses were easy to pick up because coaches, like I have like 2 decades of data on single coaches in this league. That's enough. It's across a lot of different weird formats for some of them, but it's enough to get a solid idea of who a lot of these teams are. And the teams that are more ambiguous, they like ambiguously suck. I don't think they'll be that good. So that's fine. But I would go very much heavy on like individual teams and be really loose with how I project them, like really try and work. The depth charts aren't actually that deep this time around because like so many players at 3 a.m. got moved to the practice squad, but still I'd be like much more confidently moving to stacking like a team's 3-4 wide receiver with their quarterback than you would in like any other realistic format, just because we don't know. And we have even less reporting. Like our boots on the ground is just Justin Freeman, just out here living his best life in Birmingham. So like he was on Davis's pod and dropped some like practice nuggets, and that's all I've really heard. So
I know. No, and it's so true. And I mean, you can look at the Run the Sims projections. You can look at ETRs. You can look across the board. Everyone has pretty tight bands. You know, I was looking at the ETRs. It's like 13.3 points for the top running back, and then you can go about 15 deep down to 10. And so it's just like we don't know. We have the depth charts. We have some loose knowledge going back. But why don't you start with, has there anything that's changed for you in the past couple of days as far as those 3 a.m. news reports that you mentioned, Justin Freeman trickling out, any nuggets, anything that's made you be like, oh, maybe this isn't how we would have initially thought headed into this weekend?
Yeah, there are a few backfields that like really cleared up in the sense that they like going from 3 running backs to 2 running backs it only sounds like 1 running back, but when it cuts it from like a potential 33% share to like a 50% share, and if we think one of them maybe has a little bit of an edge, maybe a 65% share, that was really important. So we had, I'm going to botch so many of these names because they're like the NCAA, FCS, like in NCAA 12, if you have like FCS South, they didn't list FCS names. So it's the FCS South Dragons. And every single one of these teams reminds me of that. So I botched this so many times. We have Bart Andrus' Stars. I think they put Paul Terry as his name, who was one of the 2 backs who played for him in the TSL, the spring league. Do you call it like the TSL or just TSL, whatever? And their other back, who I'll pull up his name, but basically he had 2 running backs who played with him at some point in the past years. Paul Terry was put on the practice squad. I think it's like for a lot of guys to get injured, and I guess like maybe they're like cutting them out of like game checks or something. I don't know, but it cuts the backfield down to 2, and that was a team we wanted to target. Plus, when you look at the Breakers, Larry Rose, who was drafted highly, he doesn't seem to be very good, was moved to the practice squad. So now we're down to TJ Logan and someone else. Like I have to pull all these guys' names up. TJ Logan has also played with Larry Fedora in the past, and he's also made NFL teams. So like really interesting option there. And before, when we had these 3-person backfields, it was like, I think this offense is better, but a 3-person backfield is so much less valuable than even a worse offense with a 2-person backfield. So clarifying, I think for me, it was mostly the Stars and the Breakers backfields was like that opened up a lot of value, and is an important reminder that like salary is nothing. I don't think salary really matters. This was true of like the first NASCAR contest because it was all about like finish versus where you started. So like you wanted the bad players or whatever because they were low on the starting pole and could move up. So you wanted like these guys who could just move up. Salary was meaningless. I think there's no real floor to salary. Like you have like Victor Bolden at 36. You have TJ Logan at 33 and some other like, decent wide receivers at 6K. If that wins, if we have like 2-3K running backs and a bunch of 6 to 8K receivers that win, and like Gambler's D is like 3 or whatever, you're going to have like a 39,000 salary lineup. And I think that is totally viable. I don't think it's the most likely, but like if you made the $12 contest, yeah, that would be like, I'd be perfectly fine, like getting down to like 40K.
Yeah, I was actually just going to circle back to the salary thing because I think along with stacking, that's the biggest macro point to drive home. I have just laughably low salary numbers across the board. And to go back to, how we think hand builders and ticket bros might play this, like most people, we are so hardwired to fill up the salary cap.
So it feels gross.
You're going to do your Jordan Tiamo. You're going to do your Poindexter. You're going to do your Victor Bolden. You're going to fill this up. And not only are you going to have a lineup that's not necessarily optimal, but you're also going to be running right into high ownership there. So this is like a double whammy for me of like our overconfidence, high ownership, and due to some of these depth chart reshufflings, maybe not even the best play on these teams. So do not worry about using all your salary at all today.
Yeah, it's totally like it is the perfect combination because it might even be better just in terms of the raw projection. You might get the best projection at like 48 or something K, depending on how you project. And no one wants to do that. So you are making possibly a worse lineup, probably in the end of the day, like a break even lineup in terms of its like raw projected points. And the more you go up that salary list, like the more, I don't want to say likely to dupe, because we probably won't have dupe issues, which is the more ownership you'll have, so much more. So like it is double, yeah, the double whammy works the other way too, where it's increasingly exponentially advantageous to leave salary, I think.
All right, I'm so rusty with these crams. What do you think's the most interesting way to go about this? You think talking like position by position? Do you think starting with tonight's game? I'm completely out of my element right now, Kyle. What do you think's the best way to attack this?
If we start with tonight's game, it will be a short one because tonight's game doesn't look that good. Yeah, I mean, Birmingham could have some decent players. I'll have some Alex Magoo. Yeah, we could go game by game because at the end of the day, like some of these teams, I'm going to be like, if you told me you crossed out every single player from your player pool on a specific team, I'm like, yeah, there are some teams that are that bad.
Yeah, I think even saying for people, because it's perfectly viable. You can have a dummy lineup in tonight. Obviously, we have, late swap. This isn't like your lineup is locked. You're going to be able to move things around tomorrow. So kind of talking through, all right, let's say you just tuned into this cram. You don't really have time to dig in deep, but you do want to make sure if you need to lock button someone from tonight before you tweak your lineups while your family is doing Easter egg hunts tomorrow morning. So who are your favorite plays or guys you would want exposure to tonight?
So from tonight's game, we have Birmingham versus New Jersey. All the totals are about the same. I don't think it really matters that much. Birmingham, I think they're the second biggest, maybe tied to the second biggest favorite. Birmingham would be like really the only team in the first, or the only of the two teams that I would be willing to target. I think Alex Magoo isn't bad. Like he'd be a fine tournament play. He's been like okay in the preseason of the actual NFL, and okay in the preseason is a bar that not all of the quarterbacks clear in this league. Some of them haven't even made the preseason. So like he was the fourth. I have 4 quarterbacks in my player pool. He was the 4th one. I only have a little bit of him, but I think he's a pretty solid tournament play because we're going to see, like, I would imagine we'll see just a crazy amount of ownership on Jordan Ta'amu. Understandably so. He has probably the best pedigree. I'd say arguably the best pedigree. Tearing it up in the XFL, looking good as a passer, rushing a ton, which this league doesn't have great rushing quarterback value. So if you want to get weird, I think Alex Magoo is probably is it Magoo or McGough? Dude, I feel bad if it's Magoo, honestly.
I have no clue. I made my my DFS or USFL DFS preview video, and I was just praying to the gods that I got the names right. So whatever
no one
you
knows,
say,
like no one's going to call you on it.
No. You just say it with confidence and then just plow forward.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you do. For the running back position, I think running back is probably the one where I'm willing to go to the bad teams the most, because the bad teams are probably bad because of how much they insatiably want to run the football. I think the talent in this league will probably, I don't want to say like uniformly distributed, but it would be on a bell curve. There will be bad teams and good teams, but I think the coaching is much more where there are some truly horrific coaches. But if a horrific coach gives a guy 20 carries, I don't care how bad the team is. That'll be way more than anyone else gets. And that's kind of Darius Victor, right? Darius Victor is this like bowling ball. He's got to be like 5'8" or 9. It's like 200 pounds at least. This bowling ball of the back who's pretty good with the XFL's New York Guardians, if I remember correctly. And they have a pretty narrow backfield with Mike Weber, who actually looked like a really solid play. Got moved to the practice squad a few days ago now. It's just him and Trey Williams. Trey Williams could maybe eat into his workload. Trey Williams has worked with the Generals coach. Is the Generals coach Mike Riley, I believe?
Yeah.
No, is it?
I don't know. I just said yeah.
I have to pull the spreadsheet.
Just go back to that confidence thing.
Whichever coach the Generals is, Trey Williams has played with him. It was whoever coached I believe the Seattle Dragons and maybe the San Antonio Commanders, one of the AAF teams. It wasn't AAF DFS that was like meaningful, so I didn't follow that as much. But he played under his head coach, his now head coach, I think was the Seattle.
It is Mike
Dragons,
Riley, by the way.
It is Mike Riley. He's played under him before, so he'll get some passing work. He might get some run, but I still think Darius Victor being like just straight up probably a better running back at 3,600. Perfectly fine. Probably the player I have the most of in this game. Yeah, it has to be. He's like one of the better running back plays straight up. And he probably won't be as popular as like BJ Emmons or even like Eric Groshek. So easily I'd have to imagine I have to pull up my lineups, but probably the person I have the most of in this game.
Yeah, and just also to frame this game for people in context of the rest of the slate, you can see here it's tied with the Bandits Maulers game for one of the lowest over-unders. But I think this is maybe a slightly better game just because the Maulers look to be the worst team in the league here. But you can see not projected to have quite as much scoring as these other ones. But again, these are also closely bunched together. I do think it's interesting, like you said, with Tony Brooks James, just with that backfield clearing out. And they are now down to pretty much just Tony Brooks James. I had the splits up here on Run the Sims. You can kind of see how Justin has put in the inputs here, and he's giving, Tony Brook the majority of the rushing share as of right now, and then slid a little bit over to CJ Marable here. But I think too, one other thing I should mention with the Run the Sims guys, if you guys are interested in getting signed up with this, and why I think it's so perfectly suited to the USFL Wild West, is you can go in here and tweak these market shares and then push out sim results that bake that in. Whereas sometimes if you were to go in and adjust a points per projection or projection for a player, then you have to think of all the domino cascading effects of how that could theoretically ruin other projections. The Sims do that for you. So want to make sure you guys are utilizing that. But the other interesting thing too is kind of thinking through, is Tony going to be super popular? Because that's kind of my concern now that he's such a clear top projected guy, and wondering how much ownership are you willing to play Tony Brooks into?
Yeah, I will say this for almost every back. I think there is one and almost two backs that I think I would confidently project to be pretty high on their separation between RB1 and RB2 on their own team. And that isn't the case for this team. I actually think CJ Marable, I have no clue. Again, I know where he went to school too. He was really good in his final 2 seasons at Coastal Carolina. The Chanticleers was a really good pass catcher with the Chanticleers too, on like actually good football teams as far as you can go for. I assume they're like in the AAC, not the ACC, the AAC, but like FBS level, high-end producer, and was like really electric, the ball in his hands. I think this is one spot, like many spots, where in the large field tournaments, like should I just like play the backup running backs? Like you were going to get the week 1 of the XFL is perfect because we knew exactly that the Roughnecks, Houston Roughnecks, they were the one that had Philip Walker, Cam Phillips,
yeah.
right, and coached by June Jones. We knew they were the team you wanted. Even if we thought they're going to pass a lot, the running back was going to be in the red zone. I have no clue who their running back that I thought was going to get in was. It was not him. And they had the only running back who scored 2 touchdowns the first week. And he was like 0.5% owned in the big DraftKings contest because we don't know with these teams. We've seen none of their practices. So I'd be totally willing to go to like CJ Marable in the large field contest because I'm not confident in anything. That's the whole point, is we should have, like you pointed out perfectly, is like the distributions are going to be so flat. And like, even if you think players are better, like it's so obscured from where we can project these guys from, like, oh, this guy like Jamon Moore had 2 1,000-yard seasons at Missouri, an SEC school. But like the NFL has told us he's not that good. The NFL has told us a lot of these guys aren't that good. How much does 1,000-yard seasons mean? I don't know. How much does the fact that he was drafted, like his draft spot within the USFL draft mean? Probably, it doesn't seem like that much because so many of these coaches just took I don't want to say their buddies, but guys they've coached before, whether it was the OC taking a guy or it was the head coach taking a guy that quarterback had played with before. So even the draft capital in this league is going to be not like, I don't think that predictive, not as predictive as we would like, at least, because there's so much like buddy stuff, like Bart Andrus's Philadelphia Stars, or just his team from the TSL, or a combination of his past 3 teams, as much as he can. They'll probably have starting running back, starting 2 receivers, starting quarterback, and at least 1 or 2 linemen, I think, all that he has coached in the past 2 years. I don't think those are the whatever 6 best players that he could have taken. And I think we'll see that a lot, right? So this backfield, the only one I'll get to it, it's Garrett Groshek and maybe BJ Emmons are the only ones who I feel somewhat confident those are the clear number 1 backs. I don't feel that way anywhere else. And that's like the perfect setup for tournaments, just playing like quote backups. We don't know what they are.
Yeah. Yep. And I do really think too, when you look at the top players, in the Sims, a lot of them that are showing up are, sub 4K, just because so much has shuffled even since these salaries were released. Josh Norris, I'm never going to take the opportunity not to swing on a tee up like this. I did put a tweet out with my favorite one earlier. I believe the line has moved a little bit on that one. So I was messing around with the rivals. There was Tony Brooks James, who everywhere was projected for far more rushing yards than Trey Williams. It was only at 2.5. I think this is moved now. And then I also took Jamon Moore over Osiris Mitchell, who, again, Jamon Moore was also projected for a decent bit more there. I can click this here and see if this has changed a bunch. Had you taken a look at any of the pick'ems here?
I looked at him earlier today and I was like, I don't want to bet on this game. I'm going to get in it tomorrow. This can be an ugly game. But I actually like looking at one like Kevontae Turpin. I don't know how he got drafted as early as he did, because like he projects as like maybe like if you just look at talent, which like I said, it's really hard to surmise because these players all get filtered into this league because in the NFL sense, they're not that talented. I'm not saying these aren't like the top 1%, but they're far from the top 0.1%. I wouldn't even confidently project Kevontae Turpin as a top 2 receiver on his team. I think he's probably the receiver 3 on his team, and they're not a very good team. So like under Kevontae Turpin, yeah, I would say take, yeah, like probably under on a lot of these. It's going to be bad. The only one that like sticks out to me is over would be like Luis Perez, because I still think teams are going to average more than 133 yards a game, but he's not good. He's not even good for AAF and XFL standards.
I know. And I will also here show you guys the on Run the Sims. We have the prop tool. So you can come in here, you can pick Luis Perez, pass yards. You can check the underdog line, 133.5. If it was a different book, you could do the over under juice, but you can just see here the median. So in the Run the Sims projection, we have median 124. So even there with Justin's baseline, kind of leaning toward an under on that one. We could see what was
go to Magoo, because you can get Magoo versus Mago, whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah. See what Mago's is, because like you can get 40 something. I just had it up. You can get like plus 43 and a half passing yards between the two for the rivals.
Yeah. So Luis Perez's was Magoo's was 195.5, and we have that going over by a decent bit, 210 pass yards there. And then in the rivals, you said it's
like 43 and a half is the spread.
Okay. So yeah, I still think then you like the Alex side, even with the 43 and a half, just based on, and I think you're actually getting a little value even relative to the over under lines on underdog.
It would seem that way. I'm surprised Run the Sims has probably Perez solo. Magoo's number actually seems like roundabout right.
Yeah.
There also could be, I'd be curious if Run the Sims even has Luis Perez playing the whole game, which is far from a guarantee because he was brought in later into the process. And I believe it was this team that had their quarterback break his foot. So we didn't even know he was going to be a starter until like 40 hours ago.
Yeah, I can check the inputs here. Yeah, it looks like he does have DeAndre Johnson mixing in just for a smidge.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would love to see DeAndre Johnson mix in for much more than a smidge, because he's like never really gotten a chance to play football, but like he's a super good runner, and like that's all he could complete no passes, and he'd be more interesting to watch than Luis Perez.
Yeah, let's see here. I will why don't we build one here for the chat, because I know Josh doesn't even want a game of skill of this game. He just needs a sweat. What would be a fun sweat for the people here?
Are we just we're just taking, this isn't rivals anymore, we're just taking overs and unders on these?
Yeah, and I think we can't with good conscience recommend overs. I think we have to go Peter Underzet here.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, some of these, like, I understand taking like the over in Jamon Moore. He's really good. He could be his team's wide receiver 1, but the value there is like tentative, where I feel much more confident in like the under on Kevontae Turpin, even like Victor Bolden, who is probably his team's wide receiver 1. Like he's been like kicked around the NFL and like hard to make practice squads for like 2 or 3 years. I think the last time he got in was like 2018 with the 49ers, if I remember correctly. Like, that's not that much better than any of the other guys on his team, but like he's going to have one of the best receiving projections, and it's just fragile. It's just super fragile. So like under on Victor Bolden. What else?
I still want to. I guess this is correlating my other rival that I already have in the can, but I mean, I just want to bet on Osiris Mitchell having more than 26.5 yards.
Throw it in there. Osiris Mitchell, I'm pretty sure, is a solid college profile. You don't find a lot of like a solid college profile to me in this league is like role player on a Power 5 school, like 600 yards at Ohio State. I think 600 was like what Johnny Dixon got. That's really good for this league. Or Arkansas State 1,100 yards, which like John Adams or Jonathan, I don't know, Adams on the Breakers got. There are a lot of guys that don't even meet that. So like Osiris Mitchell, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He was on my dynasty rosters at some point, I'm sure.
The chat is just begging for the Magoo over, but here's the deal. We're betting unders. Also, it doesn't correlate if we're betting the Osiris Mitchell under there. I don't want to have too conflicted of interest. So I'm gonna leave this as just a two for here. Right. I'll put this one in the chat if you guys want to tail this one with Kyle and I, and you guys are more than welcome to add Alex Magoo overs to that if you want. I did want to look at one of the most fun things for me to look at with the Sims is just seeing, the optimal rate and how much these guys are showing up in the winning lineups. So Run the Sims, of course, simulates these contests, spits out 10,000 lineups and sees which players are appearing the most. I would say the biggest surprise to me relative to other projections I've looked at is Cameron Scarlett. Justin has a pretty bullish projection on him. I think he has it at 11.6, which is a good bit higher than anywhere else. Do you have any thoughts on Cameron Scarlett? Because he was one of the unique names here that I saw.
Yeah, I don't want to go against every time like I see Justin do something. Like, oh, I might be wrong then. I would have Stevie Scott projected not confidently. Like a lot of these, it's not confidently over. Like Groshek is the one player who does, I think, have someone to hold on his backfield. But like Stevie Scott, I would have projected over Cameron Scarlett. And because like I do feel solid about TJ Logan as a value, I feel solid about Victor Bolden as a value. Price doesn't matter. Like it's not like Cameron Scarlett's a good value, right? Versus Stevie Scott. Value hardly really matters anymore when like some of the best plays are legit just 3K. So yeah, he's the one who sticks out to me. TJ Logan makes a ton of sense. I think assuming, especially the higher stakes you go, the sharper you're going to get, but assuming like not in the $12, right? TJ Logan's going to be super popular. Maybe that makes like a Victor Bolden pivot perfectly good because they're the same price, essentially $300 off. And they both project to be probably their own team's lead backs. Breakers are a better team. TJ Logan also familiar with the scheme. I get why he is more better projected. I would take him straight up, but like Victor Bolden could be a good pivot. I would say I'd take Stevie Scott over Cameron Scarlett. But Tony Brooks, James, Marlon Williams is a really interesting one. He had a really good final season at UCF, and I have no clue how to project him. I want him to do well, and some of these guys, I don't know what to do with them. Chad Williams, another one. So I love some of these, some of these Sims players because Chad Williams was like added in either the supplemental draft or just signed in free agency, but he has some NFL experience. It's a really good looking team. I think the Breakers are going to be the best offense. I even think I'd take them over Jordan Teamu's Bandits team. But like Chad Williams is probably I would think he's probably his team's wide receiver 4, and he could totally end up being his team's wide receiver 1. And I think he probably won't be popular, right? So I think Poindexter, Johnny Dixon, and someone else. Oh, John Adams will probably be all more popular. So I love that. I love Marlon Williams. Averaged 130 yards a game at UCF. It's a D1 school, FBS school in his final season there. So I love those two calls. Matt Colburn, even though I do think Darnell Scott was the name I was looking for at the beginning of the show, is probably his team's running back 1 because he played for Bart Andrus before recently. And the other guy who played for Bart Andrus, I'll say, got cut. He's on the practice squad. Colburn, the perfect type of backup target because it's good offense. Bart Andrus isn't going to be the most pass heavy. I know the people in the CFL streets are like, well, don't get too excited. He does actually sometimes establish it. He has a good pedigree though in these little leagues, if you want to call him that. It's I love just a lot of these backups. DeAndre Overton, I think he's probably their team's wide receiver 3-ish, but he got on the field at Clemson. His numbers got better. I think it was Clemson every single year. So a lot of these backups, I would even, they're great leverage plays.
Yeah, for sure. And one other quick note about these optimal rates here. So based on the way they needed to get the Sims spun up for this first week, these are actually double what they actually are, it adds up to 200% if you add them all up. So if you are comparing these to ownership, divide these by 2. So the actual optimal rate for TJ Logan is closer to, 37%. So just a little note there, as I was comparing these, I was like, I'm going to be way overweight on TJ Logan. And then I realized that, and that they said, Justin said they're going to have that fixed by week 2. Corey asking a good question here, I think. Do you prefer running back or wide receiver in the flex today? I don't know if I have a super strong take on this, just because some of the projections are fairly similar, and the easier projectable running backs are going to be owned at a good clip. But do you have a take on that?
I think, like, in my cash game, I think I have still 2 running backs. I don't know if I got 3. I might have gotten a 3. I'd have to check. But in tournaments, I think I don't think you get a lot of ceiling from any of these running backs. Like, the ceiling comes from the double touchdown game. I don't remember. We may not have had, if we had it, it was like one time a 100-yard rusher in the XFL. The XFL, the run games were just not very good. And they still and we will see more running in this league. I think that's why we're even asking it. If you just look at XFL stats, you would not play a single running back you didn't have to. And you would even say, I'm going to give up all my salary at the running back position because the difference between RB1 and RB40 is nothing. They all suck. I don't think that'll be the case. The backfields are much more condensed here, with so many teams now moving down to 2 running backs on the roster. And I think the median, or the average pass rate in the USFL, is going to be much worse across the board. We don't have our Hal Mummy offenses, our June Jones, Bob Stoops. The best we have are just guys who ran spread in college, modestly progressive coaches at lower levels. And then we have some true establish it guys. We have some true run the damn ball guys. So I think the pass rate is going to be way down. Run rates are up. And I think probably the pass efficiency will kind of come more in line with running. They won't cross, they won't converge, but passing isn't going to be as good. I would say I actually set a limit. I think I set a limit at 2 running backs in all of my tournament lineups. And I still tried to get to 1 more often than not. But it is hard. They do project pretty well, just because we can be more confident with a 2 running back backfield, especially on the Maulers, who all they want to do is run, or Jeff Fisher's team, who all they want to do is run, where I love the Breakers, but their wide receiver 4 could be their wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up the Maulers because they're an interesting one, and another one where Run the Sims appears to be much lower on them than the rest of the industry. And both Madre London and Garrett Groshek are projecting for decent just raw projection, but also a decent amount of ownership, both in about the 20% range. And on Run the Sims, they're both showing up in the optimal rates less than 5% of the time, both of those guys. So to me, it's this classic, one, you have probably the worst team in the league versus, but this is projectable volume and there's 2 guys here we expect to carry the load. So where do you fall on the, fade or jam Pittsburgh running backs?
I don't have a lot of Madre London. He was awesome in the European League of Football, the ELF, 2,000 yards on the ground, which isn't a weird, they don't run a lot in Germany or whatever. He got twice as many yards as the next closest guy. But Groshek was actually not a good college back, but a useful college back. And he sort of looks like a fullback. He's not terrible. He played, he put up fullback numbers up until his final season, where he looks like a fullback numbers, but it was a 6-game season for Wisconsin or whatever. He led the team in carries and I think rushing yards as well. So he was a committee back his final year at Wisconsin. He didn't get on the field because he was behind Jonathan Taylor for 3 years. And he took Jonathan Taylor off the field to catch passes. I think he's less fullback than people would give him credit for. What a dumb... it's what is it, Saturday night, and I'm talking about Garrett Groshek film or whatever. It's just the worst way to say it. Well, but I think he's a legit running back at USFL level, to be very clear. But he also got preseason reps, I think, with the Raiders as well. So I would have him as pretty confidently ahead of Madre London, and he's the only Mauler I'm really getting to.
I know. And Rupesh, you're probably seeing through my thing, because I was thinking I'm going to fire up this cram, and I am very good at looking at the Sims and comparing the numbers, but I was going to run into some dead ends and some knowledge base very quickly. And I knew if I brought Kyle on, he would just have a fire hose of information to help me get through an hour of USFL content. So shout out to Kyle for joining us. Please follow him on Twitter at Kyle Tweets here. And what else do you got going? Are they letting you do any USFL content for NBC Sports Edge, or are they going to rein you in?
If it does well, I will continue doing it. It's also just up to me. Like, if no one reads the article, I will do the research on my own and not worry about writing it up. That's perfectly fine. I'll tweet about it. You don't have to read it. But if you would like me to keep doing it, and you've still got 22 minutes to cram, I did 2-part series because it was so long. Turns out breaking down teams is a long time. But you can go to my Twitter. I'll retweet it right now. You can go to my Twitter and read the both USFL part 1 and part 2 breakdowns. You can skim it. You don't have to read it super hard. Even honestly, if you really want me to do it and you're just like, I want to watch next week or I want to read it next week, just click it. Just add to the clicks numbers. That's fine. But yeah, that's what's going on right now. And, you know, I'm on the follow the NBC pod. I'm on doing normal football stuff like multiple times a week.
Yeah. And while we're doing plugs here, you get 10% off Run the Sims, the USFL package with promo code Pete. And you will also get access with that to our premium channel in the Deposit Kingdom Discord. It's the Run the Sims channel. I post all the best leverage plays. I look at the sim results, compare it to projected ownership around the industry, kind of identify the plays that we can be overweight on. If you need help getting in there, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or Discord. But yes, all of us USFL thought leaders trying to keep the enthusiasm going here so we can keep this rolling for multiple weeks, because it is a lot of fun. But man, we will have to see what the contests look like next week. Why don't we do this? Why don't we build a lineup? People always dig that. And we can, you know, talk through kind of how we would approach building this, because I think a lot of people are in the same boat right now. They have a single ticket and they're trying to figure out, how do I do this? So I'm going to register for this one that we have what do we have? 20K up top, and we can build a lineup for this.
I got to check and see if the second contest they drop are going to fill. Cause I'll pump into these. I'll do my part and see if we can get more contests next week if these aren't going to fill.
Yeah. You know, we all have to do our part as USFL thought leaders, you in the chat, everyone. We thank you for your future service in joining these contests. It does look like this is about to fill. It looks like there's about, I don't know, 100 more spots left in this one with 20K to first. All right, let's see here. So who quarterback is, I'll let you get registered though, too. I can't have you missing out on contests a second time, Kyle.
Oh, we're good. I will just be throwing whatever lineups I already have on my phone. I'm done building lineups for other than this one.
So
pump whatever I have already.
So when we talk for quarterback, I mean, Tiamu is going to be the most popular quarterback. I'd be pretty shocked if he wasn't. Where is your next spot that you would like to go if we rule out Tiamu?
Yeah, I have a tiny bit of time. I think it's just because I'm a coward, and like I could totally see him dropping 25, which would be a high score for this league, I assume. And I'm playing, you know, his receiver 2-3s whenever I play him, but I don't have a lot of him. I'm going to be lapped by the field on him. I'm playing way more in the field, I assume, on Kyle Slaughter. Decent amount of Brian Scott. I know it's such like, this is the thing that like my spreadsheet brain just really can't handle is what is the value of Kyle Slaughter's team or of Brian Scott's team all kind of having played with each other, and they were good as the TSL generals, right? He was the MVP of the 2020 and 2018 season of the TSL, which is like a collective 8 games, I think. But he like ran laps. And what I found out was that Shea Patterson played in the spring league in 2020. You cannot find stats for this. They scrubbed him. Like the government hid some disgusting things in the 2020 spring league stats, and you cannot find them anywhere. It's not even on Shea Patterson's Wikipedia page that he played in the spring league in 2020, but like Teamu beat him out on the Chiefs roster. You had Brian Scott play better than him there. I don't know what Brian Scott's how translatable his stuff is from being really good in the spring league to what does that matter? But for me, Scott and Slaughter are the 2 quarterbacks I'll probably most overweight on. Probably Alex Magoo too, but because I don't think anyone's playing him.
Yeah, let's do Scott. I mean, he projects similarly to Tiamu, and I think he's going to be about half the ownership as well. So that seems like a nice play. And then, I mean, we definitely want to have a couple pass catchers with Scott. Then, who are your favorites to pair with him?
Yeah, if you're playing Scott, you don't have to get as weird. Where like if you play Teamu, I assume everyone's playing him with Derek Willis. Willis actually has like reps on the Browns and reps on those Browns teams with Todd Haley as his like OC or something. I don't know. So you don't have to get as weird. For me, Devin Gray is kind of obvious. Then I'd be fine moving down to like DeAndre Overton. No one's, I assume, going to be playing DeAndre Overton. They had either Brendan Eagle or Brennan Mack. They sound too similar for me to remember which one is which. That probably looked like the wide receiver 3 on this team. And I'm going to say it's called getting cut. He got moved to the practice squad technically. So that moves Overton up into that 3 spot. But if this were like a smaller contest, I'd be perfectly fine just playing Devin Gray and Jordan Sewell. Sewell caught like 360 some odd yards with Brian Scott in their 2020 spring league stint. Clearly a connection. I think, who was it? I think it was either Cody or, it was one of the USFL grinders tweeted like, oh, I think Brian Scott has a type. And he liked that tweet because it was like him throwing to a big, like Jordan Sewell's like 6'3" or something, like 6'3" Jordan Sewell. Do you remember do you know who that was?
No.
It was Cody, Justin, someone like that. But like,
it's hard to keep up. I mean, it's just a fire hose of information there.
Yeah, but Sewell, Overton, Gray are the very obvious 3. Overton will be super unique. You can play pretty chalky after this.
Yeah, and that was a point too I was going to make with some of these. Obviously, I think if you have a quarterback, you're generally wanting to double stack on this size of a slate. And when there is so much ambiguity with, wide receiver 3, 4, 5, like, yeah, you can pick one of the top 2 guys, but then get a little unique with that second guy as opposed to just jamming the 2 most popular. So like a combo like Sewell and Overton seems to make sense. The big question to me then is, do we toss in Colburn, who is popping in the Sims, and do we just like really kind of onslaught in a sense the stars here?
Yeah, I have a lot of lineups like that, especially as long like I don't know, even actually like even in the biggest contest, the thing is like it's not like NFL where we're thinking, oh well, if we have Sewell get there and we have Overton get there, that's probably 4 touchdowns taken care of. No, that could legitimately be like 6 catches for 80 yards, and we're like, a 3 for 20 line. My God, you didn't have to go that hard in the paint. So like, I'm perfectly fine just going like 4 players on one offense very easily. I'm surprised it's Colburn. I actually think it'll be Darnell Holland, but like perfectly fine Colburn.
Yeah, the not that salary is going to be an issue either too. Pretty big difference there. And if we can upgrade too, if we end up feeling like we have the space here. And also because I didn't give you guys Peter Overzet bets today, I am giving you an overton in the lineup. So that's the least I can do. Where would be your next spot here? Another kind of conversation thing. I mean, I have not forced a single bring back in any of these. I haven't even thought of that whatsoever. So we don't have to worry about that necessarily, but where would you like to go next?
Yeah, this is the one where I wouldn't force it either, but like, it's like, I don't think there's like going to be very much, if any, correlation between opponents in these games, because like the Maulers are not going to see their opponents putting up 23, which will be a lot in this league, see their opponents putting up 23 and be like, all right, time to start getting the pace up. They're not going to do that. They're going to be like, we got to get Garrett Groshek 4 more carries is what they're going to say. Or the other back, I don't remember who it is, Madre London, right?
Yeah.
The only one where I do think like run backs make sense is I think these are 2 of the 3 to 4 best teams pretty clearly in the league playing Philadelphia and New Orleans. So I would run it back here, but that's also because I just have a lot of the run back options.
Yeah.
Let's just go with Quincy Poindexter.
Yeah, we definitely have.
Quincy was a guy who got cut.
Yeah. So we have Poindexter. We could fill in our defense here as well. This is really just kind of throwing your hands up in the air. I don't know if we want to bet against the Maulers. I don't mind the Bandits here. Anyone else you would want to toss in?
I like betting against the Michigan because I don't think it'll be very good. Their head coach is Jeff Fisher, which is cool. That's not like a good thing. It's just a trivia bit you throw out. And their offensive coordinator was very bad at Grambling State. And he did turn around his like JUCO college Reedley or whatever, but he just ran the football a ton. And it was really bad for a few years. And he still did it. It ended up working out. He's just going to run the ball a ton. And he runs this like thing he made up called like the tight end driven gun offense or something, or the multiple gun offense, I think he would call it. And then it's got a subtitle like a movie, and it's a tight end driven offense, and he sells it on VHS. So I don't think this guy is prepared to coach in even the USFL. I want to bet as much as I can against Michigan. So I love gamblers, and this will help us leave tons of salary on the table, which I think is super smart in tournaments.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, it's impossible for us to use all of the salary now at this point. So you really can pick your favorite play here. I think we should probably pick a one-off from another game. Do you have a ... in a vacuum, a favorite play?
Yeah, no particular favorite play, but Tampa Bay feels like a team we should probably get exposure to here, and especially
Yeah.
we can even be chalky with it. We can even we'll go. Who do we got here? We'll go. Actually, I think his name's Derek Dillon. Derek Dillon, I think. D Dillon, as he shows up on the screen, went to LSU and didn't do a ton, right? A few hundred yards in a few seasons or whatever, but he played behind at the time. At some point, I believe, like DJ Chark, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and like other decent players there too. Like he could have been like a 1,500-yard receiver at Arkansas State or something. So I hope he does well. I don't know if he does well, but I hope he does well.
Yeah, and Willie's looks like he's going to be one of the more popular guys. So I'm happy to fade any of these just top 5, just chalk guys for the most part. So, this is a lineup where a lot of hand builders are like, wait, I can't leave this much salary on the table. I'm going to, exit off. And you did say, we could upgrade Colburn if we want, although this definitely leaves it pretty unique if we want to keep him in.
Yeah, I don't think you have to upgrade Colburn by any means here. No problem with this.
And you do, when we enter this, Kyle, you do have to beg the audience not to dupe us.
All right, guys, look, I've been doing this for free. I'm pretty sure I volunteered to do this at NBC. I didn't get paid for this at all. Right. And Pete, I'm assuming the table stakes are that if this wins it all, which I think was 20K in this, we chop it.
Yes.
I did this for free. I have kids to feed. I don't, but I did get a puppy in the past few months. And she will undoubtedly starve if I don't specifically collect the potential money, which may not happen, from this lineup. So it's not that I'm asking you not to dupe me. It's not that I prefer it. I need it. Please don't dupe me.
Please don't dupe us, bros. Kyle and I are going to split this once we ship this for 20K. It's going to be a beautiful sight. Kyle, really appreciate you chopping it up. Someone in the chat was asking me if I'm going to do a lineup review show. I don't think I'm that sick enough, guys. I really don't think I'm that sick enough. But who knows? If the world catches USFL fever, this documentary comes out. They're talking about it at the Easter table. Maybe I'll change my tune. My schedule's going to be touch and go, but I do think I'll pop in for some crams here, either for classic slates or hopefully we also get some big showdown slates maybe as well. What are you kind of anticipating for contests going forward?
I don't think it'll be big showdown slates. I think it'll just be big main slates. I feel like a lot of the niche sports don't get their showdown slate love. Like DraftKings, I like hockey. I watch hockey play a little bit. I don't even put up showdown slates for half the random hockey games. Same with baseball. They put up one every few hours, even though they have 10 different main slates for every 30-minute block. So I don't think we'll get big showdown slates. I hope so, especially maybe if we get later in the season. It'd be fun if we have a good season with good prize pools to get a big showdown slate for the championship game or the semifinals, whatever they do.
Yeah. And where are you at for people? I feel like this is interesting. Say you just have one guy going tonight. Maybe it is, Tony Brooks James, and he's at high ownership and he fails. He rushes 6 times for 14 yards and that's it. We're still so uncertain about ownership. If this was an NFL classic slate, the Thanksgiving slate, you'd go and you'd move off your other chalk in other spots. Should people be overcorrecting or making decisions based on what happens in this first game? Or is it just, you need to let it ride because we know so little?
Yeah, I wouldn't correct too much based on this game. Even if you do get a dud, you think you get a dud, you get a no catch 30-yard game from Tony Brooks James. Legitimately everyone had Cameron Artis-Payne in the first week of XFL DFS. And you were really sweating him getting from 4 to 6 points. He was in every winning lineup because everyone played him. And his 5 or 6 points were among the better ones outside of the nobody played Houston running back. So if for some reason Alex Magoo shows up 20% and really blows it up and you didn't play any of him, sure. Then at that point, yeah, but I wouldn't be sweating the bad players in your spots. And I don't think anyone will be popular tonight. If you take a stand against Darius Victor, he plays tonight, I think, and he completely goes off at high ownership, then yeah, you're not playing. If you plan on playing Tayamu, you're not playing him. You're probably not even playing Breakers lineups. But I don't think we'll have anyone popular enough to make me, maybe Darius Victor, maybe Victor Bolden. Those would be the only 2 guys that if you happen to take a stand against them and they blow up in your face, then you're switching. But I don't think this game is good enough for any of that to happen. And I wouldn't sweat the bad things that happen in your lineup. The winning lineup is going to be crap.
Yeah, I think
It's
that's
so bad.
that's a really good point of it's if you faded a guy that went nuclear, and then even then, it's probably like you need to get off Jordan Tiamo. He would be the
Exactly. Yeah.
one guy. So it's like such a hyper specific thing. But I guess what we're saying is you can enjoy Easter Sunday tomorrow, right, Kyle? I mean,
I mean,
what I personally have zero interest in watching these games, but you might even be sicker than me. Are you going to be walking away from the Easter table to catch some peeks of this?
I work tomorrow, so I will be watching the first game. I'll probably dip after that. I probably won't watch it. I'll
Yeah.
watch tonight. I'll watch tomorrow as long as I can make it. Hopefully, the first game tomorrow is a good one. Let me see what game it is. Nope, not a good one. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not making it too far into these games.
Who knows? Like maybe we'll just get a surprise. Like, I mean, what if we just got like a fucking 40-35 barn burner in one of these
That'd be
games?
fun. I think the only one that has a chance is Philly versus New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah, every one of these other games has either a bad quarterback, a donkey of a coach. So, and even like, I don't think we're getting our Houston Roughnecks here, but like Breakers could do it. Bart Andrews' team could just like, they could really look sound. They could have their fundamentals down because they
Yeah.
all play together. But yeah, not watching a ton of this, but like, that's why we played the DFS, right? I'm just going to sweat it by like refreshing my feed. Like Freeman will be there tweeting stuff. Justin Freeman will be there, and check his Twitter every 30 minutes and you'll get the good sweat you need.
Yep, exactly. Shout out to Justin doing the Lord's work down there, boots on the ground in Alabama this week. Shout out to Run the Sims. Like I said, you guys can get 10% off the USFL package. It's $69, so you can get $6.90 off and access to the Run the Sims premium channel in the Deposit Kingdom Discord. Appreciate Kyle hanging out with us tonight. A fountain of USFL information. Follow him on Twitter at Kyle Tweets Here. Check out his work over at NBC Sports Edge. Appreciate you swinging by tonight, Kyle. Appreciate the chat hanging out. I mean, we were joking about 8 viewers. We're up to 90. I mean, maybe we misread the mark. Maybe people are actually super excited and frothy for USFL.
I think it is that there is, it's like isn't it Peter Jennings or someone says, like, you don't want to have 10,000 fans. You want to have like 1,000 people who will vigorously support your stuff. USFL is going to be like that. Like, you're going to see people like screaming, like, why didn't they give Madre London that goal line carry? And almost every one of those is in your chat. And there's something special about that, even if it's just us.
It's very true. Ivan's going to be at the game tomorrow watching New Orleans. That sounds very fun. Ivan, be sure to send along some photos. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy the game tonight. Have a wonderful Easter. And yeah, I'll be firing up Monday streams again soon, probably after the NFL draft. But we are still going to enjoy a little bit of extra free time during this NFL offseason. All right, guys, enjoy. Go USFL. Please, DraftKings, give us 100K next week.